Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, good evening to all based on the place where you are. As the COVID pandemic unfolds across the world, threatening lives and upending the world economy, it also has a profound impact on the environment. And today's session by Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World is dedicated to unfold some of these effects on environment during COVID-19 and share our thoughts on the same. Let us quickly introduce you all with today's distinguished panel. We are very happy and very delighted to have Mr. Matthias Gelber as chief speaker of today's webinar. He is a distinguished author of the Green Man's Guide to Green Living and Working. He is a passionate advocate of green living. Matthias has been awarded Greenest Person on the Planet in 2008 and Green Icon of the Year award in 2016. He started up Eco Warriors Malaysia in 2008, as well as German-based Maliki in 2007, focusing on reducing carbon footprint and community movement to combat climate change. Matthias is also a powerful speaker. You will be delighted to listen to him today. And he is also a trainer on environmental and sustainability issues. He has given talks in 42 countries worldwide. Up next, we are very delighted to have as chair of this event, Professor Dr. M.Abdur Rob from the Department of Geography and Environment, Faculty of Arts and Environmental Sciences of University of Dhaka. Professor Abdur Rob is an expert in the areas of climatology, marine and coastal environment, geopolitics, and geomorphology of Bangladesh. As a speaker, we are delighted to welcome Professor Dr. Nowshad Amin from Institute of Sustainable Energy of Universiti Tenaga Nasional of Malaysia. Professor Nowshad is an expert in the areas of micro and nano electronics, solar cells, and alternative energy resources. We are also delighted to have as a speaker Professor Dr. Nazmun Nahar from Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, North South University. Professor Nazmun is an expert in the areas of integrated stormwater management planning, floodplain analysis and management of best practices for stormwater control and low impact stormwater strategies. And as moderator, you will have me today. I'm Sifullah Khaled, a doctoral researcher on climate finance in Glasgow, Caledonian University, London, and also working as assistant professor in Bangladesh Institute of Capital Market. My research interest is on working on the intersection of climate risk, social protection, and climate finance. Welcome you all in today's webinar. Before jumping on to the discussion, I would be happy to share a little infographics with you. It will give a nice kickoff for the starting of the discussion today. Let me share it with you in a second. I think it is visible from here. The size is okay. Yes. We all know that the COVID impact on the environment has some unexpected effect on decrease in greenhouse gases, to decrease in air pollutants, to the rise of medical waste or internet use. So we can basically divide the whole effect into these broad areas from the environmental perspective. So it brings a tolls on the carbon emission and also the waste, medical waste, or other online related purchase waste. And it also brings the tools on the use of energy. So going a little bit downward, you can see some numbers here regarding the carbon emission decrease based on the reduction in domestic air traffic, as well as traffic congestion, as well as you can see that there is improved air quality. So this is a plus point. So these have effect on the Sustainable Development Goals, number 7, regarding affordable and clean energy, number 11 regarding sustainable cities and communities, and number 13 regarding climate change. As far as the waste is concerned, you can see that the medical waste quadrupled to 200 tons per day. So there is a huge surge on the solid medical waste. Basically, we are encouraging people to use mask, or we are creating awareness to use mask. But to that concern, we are not basically awareing people how to dispose those equally. So that is a concern for the environment. And as well as there is a huge surge in the online purchasing that is creating another kind of waste regarding online packaging. So it has an impact on the SDG 11 and 12. SDG 11 is about the sustainable cities and communities, and 12 is about responsible consumption and production. Regarding wildlife habitat, we have seen some news that the dolphin and other wildlife animals are returning back to the normal. So it has impact on SDG 14 and 15. SDG 14 is about the life below water, and 15 is about life on Earth. Regarding energy, you have seen that there is a surge on use of power consumption by the data centers, as well as there is surge on increased broadband use because of this dramatic change to online conferencing like what we are doing today, as well as online schooling and streaming videos. So these all have impact on SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, SDG 9, on industry, innovation and infrastructure, and SDG 12, responsible consumption and packaging. With all these impacts, there are some impacts which are basically short run, and there are some impacts which will be there for the upcoming years, like shifting online, or basically online schooling, online teaching, online conferencing, as well as some rise of remote work behavior. So there are impacts regarding these shifts and likely impact on climate change in future. So we will be further delighted to listen from our distinguished panel today. I will stop there and we'll be happy to directly go to our panelists. So without further ado, I'd be happy to call on Dr. Nowshad Amin and listen his thoughts on today's discussion. Dr. Nowshad, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sifullah. I'm very glad that I've been invited to this session. Although my knowledge is very limited, I'll try to light on some of the issues regarding this COVID plus energy usage around the world. First of all, I'd like to say something about our situation here in Malaysia. I'm sitting just beside the capital, Putrajaya. In the first wave of COVID-19, which started in, let's say, in March, because we have started this lockdown on 18th of March, and we have seen the first round or first wave of COVID was quite, I should say from this time point, was quite okay with us, because until September, we have almost contained the COVID situation. We had altogether less than 10,000 infected people, and the altogether death was, I remember that is 125 in the whole Malaysia, the death counts, I should say. So, however, since October, we have seen a huge surge in the COVID situation, which is beyond, like, I think, any imagination or any kind of assumption. So we have seen like almost 90,000 infected COVID patients are there in the second wave of this COVID situation, and the death counts almost reached to 450. So there was a like this case is different here in Malaysia. I think you are somewhere in other part of the world. So every country has its own way of tackling or like trying to tackle this situation. And although people say that there is vaccine already out there, but it's case by case, I think, and it will be step by step where the whole population of the country may be benefited. Anyway, let me start with something about the energy, because in the first round of COVID situation or first wave of COVID situation, many countries went into lockdown, and people were in a little bit, I should say, in a dilemma or kind of limbo. So what to do, and how to start. I mean, how to cope with the situation. There was huge, I should say, huge confusion among the people, and many countries were successful in the first round. But the second wave, which is now going on, I should say, in many countries, I think I have seen the UK situation is quite horrific, and not sure about the other countries. Even I hear from Japanese friends that they are also suffering a lot. So in terms of environmental impact, okay, I studied a little bit on that one, since I have to talk about the analytical data about that. So the impact on environment in COVID era. So it's, in one sense, it was a plus. It was a plus sign that many of the environmental pollution has decreased, or particulate matters have decreased. So I have some data on that, but before that, I should say there is, we don't want COVID, although they may have a positive impact on our environment in terms of pollutants, in terms of pollutions. Still, the economy should run, and our daily schedule, our daily work should go on. We all are now suffering around the world, and I should say it's a global pandemic, and it's a not win-win situation. It's a loss-loss situation for everyone around the world. And we are sharing knowledge, of course. In the beginning, it was a confusion about the situation, whether it started in China with some bat-related issue or something. Now we are all, quite knowledgeable in one sense, and many countries, even in Bangladesh, my home country, I see that many people are really well aware of it. Even the people are ready with the kind of stockpile of some medicine, that if they have the COVID, then they will start, without consulting the doctor, they will start their medication by own. So these kind of things are happening. Nonetheless, the whole world is in a great, I should say, disaster. It's not a war. It's not a world war. It's a pandemic. And although we tried our best, many countries are still trying. The doctors are suffering. They are trying around the world. The nurses, all the workers, like service workers, they're working around the world, around the clock, around the world. But still, we cannot really contain. We cannot really be relieved. Okay, we cannot say that we are okay with it. So I sometimes say people that let's go back to 1920, when there was a similar pandemic, Spanish flu, and what happened in 1921, what happened in 1922. So can we learn something from there? So this is one issue, I should say. However, let me share some of my data today. Can you see my screen?
Yes, okay. You can see.
If you can see, I will not put into the slideshow mode because I have some issue here. I think I cannot see everything. I want to share. So this is the situation. Every day in Malaysia, we are getting this information through many sources, even from our university, our department. Also, sometimes they are sharing the information just to give some tips also to be careful. For example, don't go home. They said, Jangan balik kampung. Don't go to your village, because this is the time now people go to their village home. year-end, we have almost 2 weeks of, sometimes some people take their leave, year-end leave, so they can spend relaxed time in their village home, and they are really fond of that. I mean, but this time it is very serious, so they said don't go home, just stay home. Don't go, I mean, your village home, stay at your house, wherever you are. So the total case until 28th of December is 106,000, and active cases 20,000, and 85,000 people already been treated, or I mean, they are already okay, they are okay, and around 555 people died, unfortunately. So it includes both waves, in fact. Then let me share something like that I want to show, that one of the studies shows in Southeast Asian country. I just tried to find out some knowledge from some literature. So I found that one paper has already done some analytical studies on the environmental issues. For example, already I think Dr. Sifullah has shown some data, but it shows about the Southeast Asian country, like which includes Thailand, then Vietnam, also then Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, and Indonesia, as well as Singapore. So all these countries are Southeast East Asian countries, which has, and they have taken some data, and I think the data shows that from this Himawari 8 is a Japanese satellite, I think, and they say that aerosol optical depth. Aerosol optical depth, if you do not have too much pollutants, then the aerosol optical depth, like this data should not be, I mean, there is some indication that it's okay, your atmosphere is clean, so you can see the light very clear, you know, the light that is coming from the sun. So it shows 3 different year, okay, 3 different year, and for example, 2018, 2019, and 2020 until June, I think. So for every sectors, for industrial, urban, and suburban, and rural areas, there are 4 different areas. They have taken some data from the satellite. So they found that if the data in 2018 was like this, and 2019 was like this, then 2020 is quite low. That means we can see it's quite clear. So the conclusion or the summary is written here: reduction in Himawari AOD, aerosol optical depth, at urban areas is not affected by seasonal biomass burning. Even though we have biomass burning, we are in Malaysia. Biomass is one of the renowned renewable energy resources, but we see that it doesn't. We see that it's not affecting overall. Large reduction in tropospheric nitrogen dioxide over urban agglomerations are found. And many things like this. I mean, environmentally, because since in the first lockdown we have closed everything, almost everything, but in the second lockdown now only these educational institutions are closed. Other than that, offices or industrial sectors are quite open, in fact, and of course they are taking different kind of measures, safety measures. So the data may go a little bit up, but I mean, I should say that environmentally we got some positive impact due to COVID, although we do not want it. In fact, we do not want that way, that there is some pandemic, everything is stalled. Due to that, we get the positive effect in our environment. This is one data, and there is also data about the pollutants we call particulate matter, less than 2.5 micrometer in diameter. There are particulate, for example, particulate carbon or any particulate that is roaming around, aerosols, and which is mainly responsible for our air pollution as well as our health condition related to the air pollution. So I have another data. It's showing about the pollutions, and this is not clear, but still I should say that you can see the different kind of pollutants are really less in last few months. And in Malaysia, this is a situation that because of COVID, this pandemic, the first half or first quarter, or from let's say second quarter of this year, we have closed down many industries. So we see that overall decrease in carbon footprint, and that is also a positive impact to our environment. Again, I said at the cost of our economic growth. every country around the world will see around roughly stalled GDP growth, or maybe minus to a very deep impact. So somebody says that the economic, like the GDP growth will be -5 to -10 in some countries. Nonetheless, I should say, like, we are suffering, but everywhere, even the energy sectors in Malaysia, I have seen that although we have 24 gigawatt, or I mean, a capacity of energy production, on requirement was only 13, like I think around 60%. So many of the power plants were idle during that time. It is also not a good sign for any country, or for any developing country, or any developed country. So there are always issues. I should say there are always issues, pros and cons. We have gained in one sense that this is a period. I mean, this COVID situation is a period, I should say, is a maintenance period for the whole world. We can clean up, I mean, using this situation. I mean, although we have suffered a lot. I mean, many people lost their nears and dears. Many lost their jobs. Many lost their hopes. Of course, there are many other impact, but it's a call for us to sit back and think about the whole environment, energy, social infrastructure, and many things. Our related, the state-related affairs. So, energy-wise, because I'm from the energy background, I do work on solar energy. We have seen that in July, IEA has declared that solar energy has become the cheapest means of energy for a levelized cost of energy among the sources, renewable energy sources, as well as the conventional sources. So it's a good news that renewable energy resources, although COVID situation, it has shown the one milestone that it is now the cheapest, especially from solar. So I think this COVID situation has impacted in one way, that it has stalled our usual style, or usual like way of our life. But on the other hand, it has given us a few different thoughts. For example, we need to think about our environment. We have to clean up our environment. We have to change. We have to shift. We have to shift our policy in terms of energy, in terms of other things that is related to our state affairs. Anyway, I will just give one more thing, that you may know that renewable energy resources is roughly now 25% share in global energy production. This is a little bit old data, but still I think it's more than 25%. It's 2 years old data. And there are a huge renewable energy, because since you do not have to do anything, you do not have to supply coal, you do not have to supply nuclear fuel, you don't have to supply any gas to somewhere. So I think people should think about renewables, and especially those countries who are blessed with the sun, we should use the solar energy. Those who are blessed with airflow, so we should wind. So we should go for the wind energy turbines, all those things. So I think this COVID situation has a good impact about the maintenance of the whole world. It's a cleanup period, I should say. We are cleaning up. The environment has been I should say recycled once again, and our air is much cleaner. Many data around the world shows that now, but let's take it as a chance. Let's take it as a switching period from our conventional energy to renewables, from conventional ideology to different kind of ideology. Now everybody knows that nobody goes to restaurant comes to our home, so different kind of business has started. So let's take it as a period, maintenance period, or I should say brushing up period, whatever, or as a motivation period for changing in our lifestyle, changing in our mindset, as well as changing in the scenario of the whole world. Thank you. I would like to stop here, and I'll get back to Dr. Sifullah, and I'd be happy to further discuss, share my things if there is any question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Nowshad. It was very lovely to hear your views on the energy side, along with your views regarding the COVID. We should transform our energy sector towards the more renewable part. We also have to transform our behavior of using the energy. I think Matthias will focus on this. He is an expert on this, and he believes in the philosophy of creating a healing impact rather than a burden impact on the mother nature. And you will be really astonished learning his personal carbon footprint reduction. It's astonishing. He is leading a life without car and a monthly US $10 electricity bill. And he believes the country, as I said, should not only focus on reducing their power plant or coal-based power plant. It also should have a focus on reducing consumption from household energy usage. He has single-handedly built the first tiny off-grid eco-home in Malaysia, and also published his book printed with mushroom ink on recycled paper without a single tree being cut. This is really lovely, Matthias. Matthias, we are really eager to hear more from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sifullah, all the way from Glasgow, and our other friends who are based in Malaysia. And obviously, I think most of the people listening now are in Bangladesh. So the thing I remember about Bangladesh is Bangladesh Sonardesh, the land of gold. And hopefully, it can be the green gold, the eco gold that we can all harness together for a promising future. I think Dr. Nowshad already indicated, really, it's a time for us to think, to recalibrate, to question our behavior, because we have seen a glimpse of hope. The glimpse of hope was the blue skies that we have seen. Suddenly, we have realized the relationship between human behavior and the polluted skies, because suddenly the skies were clean when our cars, our tricycles, and everything else was sitting and standing in the yard and not on the roads. But I think we have a lot of background sound. I'm not sure from whom it comes, but I can hear a lot of a background clicking from a computer or something like that. Maybe one or two of you can try to mute your, because there's a lot of background noise. So yes, that is for me the main learning, the ability for us to see the hope in the clear blue skies. But when we ask ourselves the question, have we learned the lesson? I am less hopeful than Professor Dr. Nowshad, because I see in most places we are fully back to normal already. The blue skies are gone. The same vehicles are back on the road. The same traffic jams are already back in place. The same levels of pollutions that are clouding our blue natural skies seem to be out there again. But let me share with you a couple of slides as well that look at more of the scientific background of what has been going on in terms of our overall situation. Now, I have to play around here with okay, there we go. And let me pull up this is a picture from Bangladesh, Notre Dame College, 5 years ago. Some of these students there in the picture are already studying now, finishing their studies, and hopefully in the future will help to protect Mother Nature. Some of them hopefully got inspired as well to include sustainability as part of what they want to focus on. Kurigram province, I was in a boat there crossing the river. This used to be a school, but erosion had taken down the school. Bangladesh, like the country Philippines, where I live now, is one of the top countries at threat from climate change. Low-lying countries where sometimes people even live below sea levels, like Bangladesh or Philippines archipelago, a lot of low-lying islands, very, very risky in terms of climate change. One of the talks I gave there in 2015 at Dhaka University, I have very good memories of those times in Bangladesh. Now, what has happened is that we have seen a drop in CO2 emissions in comparison to the year before. The other day, I gave an interview on a podcast, and after that podcast, somebody wrote, "Oh, shouldn't the temperatures go down now because CO2 emissions have gone down? What we need to realize here is it's not a total drop in CO2 emissions in terms of net CO2 emissions going down. It's in comparison to the year before. Still, in 2020, we will have more than 30 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions in total coming into the atmosphere. Yes, it's about nearly 2 gigaton less than the year before. That's the good news. But in total, we, more than 7 billion humans and all the economic activity are still contributing massively to the CO2 out there in the atmosphere. If you look at the first graph up there, the biggest drop was between March and then May. At the beginning of May, end of April, that's when we had a lot of countries in lockdown. So really, April and May were the glorious days of even less CO2 emissions. Here are some of the countries. We can still see that on the left-hand side, the overall carbon emissions in Bangladesh are going up, in other countries as a total over the last 20 years. We had Russia only 5% less, India 15% less, US 13%, Spain the highest with nearly 20% less compared to the year before. When we look at the sectors, it's mainly ground transport, domestic aviation, international aviation. Ground transport is the key to the blue skies. That was what really made the difference. Yes, there was less industry, there were less power plants, but if we look at the residential graph in the middle on the right-hand side, that has hardly changed. Actually, in my case, my residential electricity bill went up. And yes, I used to have an electricity bill of less than $10 US. When I was a single man, a bachelor living in Malaysia. Now I'm a family man with wife and kids. Now my electricity bill is much higher. I used to live without aircon, just a fan, but my wife, and she's right, said, oh, darling, our son is getting rashes if we just use the fan. So I had to buy an additional aircon after the lockdown was finished because suddenly we're all working from home. So this is the reality. But the global mean CO2 concentration, the average in the atmosphere, is still going up. September 2019, it was 407.7 parts per million. September 2020, it was 409.89. So let's not kid ourselves. Climate change is still a rising problem, a massive threat. We have seen a dip compared to last year, but still total CO2 concentration is going up. These are the latest data. End of December, it's about 413.7 parts per million. It used to be 350 parts per million as an average for the last 10,000 years, but we, the human species, not mainly Bangladesh, not mainly the Philippines, more the developed countries like North America, Europe, China increasingly, those are the main contributors, but historically it's Europe and North America. So they are the countries with the largest responsibility, but we are all one humanity on a global planet. We might look different, we might have different beliefs, but when we check the color of our blood, it's all red. We are one human species. We have to work on this together. We have to try and solve this problem together. So CO2 concentration ambient in the atmosphere is still going up. There is the encouraging news that we saw that it was dropping, but the threat is still very, very large. It was a 7% drop to the year before, but here the Los Angeles Times says, don't count on it to last. We might not have learned how to make this an ongoing long-term issue. However, there is one good news. Here, this is a magazine that I read regular, the Eco Business magazine. It identified 6 ways the pandemic changed sustainability in 2020. And number 5 there is Journey to Net Zero. a lot of countries, including China, has made the commitment to net zero 2060. 2060 is a long way away. Some countries in Europe have made 2050. Others, companies in particular, are already making commitments to now or 2030. One of the companies as a startup I work with as a sustainability advisor, it's an online shopping mall. We made the commitment to go net carbon zero this year already. So we just bought our carbon credits as well and the UNFCCC website, and there is a pledge that you can make to go climate neutral. That's what we did. But wildlife trade, biodiversity, this was mentioned at the beginning. Meat industry and animal welfare standards have come to the spotlight because a lot of industrial factories that are dealing with meat, low temperature, or even have not so good working conditions. And here we had the problem in Singapore and in Malaysia. A lot of Bangladeshi workers were affected as well because the living space they are living in is not very, very generous. They are very cramped. This is considered an ESG, an environment social governance issue. And the famous Malaysian glove manufacturing company, Top Glove, was downgraded by investment analysts because of its not so impressive ESG management. And they have already promised that they will improve that and look after their workers in a better way. So labor and human rights have been highlighted. Hopefully that will be improved. There's a big struggle for plastic recyclers because of the hygienic issues. But the good news is there is a commitment to net zero carbon. This is very, very important. And one good news as well is we have a new incoming president in the US who has already said one of the first things he will do, join the Paris Agreement back again. So this is good news. This is what gives us hope. Hopefully we have reached peak emissions like peak oil, and hopefully it will continue to go down. The same magazine published 8 trends that will shape sustainability. I will just focus on 2 or 3 of them. Number 5, work from home is here to stay. I have my office now at home. My office used to be the coffee shop, but now it's here at home. So I have more time with the family. This is good news. Even though our electricity bill and our carbon footprint from power consumption has gone up, my total carbon footprint has come down because I haven't traveled anymore. I used to travel a lot, take flights. I made those flights climate neutral by buying carbon credits, but flights were my biggest carbon footprint. And that's why as well, number 7, the great tourism reset. The tourism sector is completely changing. We are going to have more domestic tourism. We will need to see what is going to happen with vaccination and with borders opening up again. But at this point in time, the focus will be on domestic tourism, not on continuous international travel. This will be bad for the airline sector, but good for CO2 emissions. One thing I want to highlight to you as well is the importance of health and indoor air. I have already, since a couple of years, my indoor air quality monitoring device here. I bought it when my baby daughter was born. I have the data on my phone. I even have a virus index giving me a clear indication how is my data compared to what is the optimized indoor air quality to reduce the survivability of the virus. 40 to 60% humidity, a certain temperature range, CO2 levels. If you have high CO2, that means there's no fresh air coming in. If there's no fresh air coming in, you have stale air. If there's somebody within the room that is infected, there's a high chance of aerosol transmission. So this is the new focus, healthy buildings. So there's a big link between environmental health, healthy buildings, and occupant health. If any one of you wants these slides, I'm happy to send you the PDF. Find me on social media, on Facebook, and follow me there. Send me a message. I will send you a copy of these slides, and then you can study these articles in a lot more detail. But all these issues of thermal comfort, acoustic comfort, indoor air quality, is it turning your building into a healthy building? And does this mean there's less risk for occupants to get infected? This is very, very critical. There are a lot of technologies emerging out there. One of them in the middle, if you look at purification technology, I have here in my room and in another bedroom, one of those technologies mentioned here, bipolar ionization. That's a technology that eliminates the airborne virus particles. So there are loads and loads of interesting technologies emerging that we can even use to improve the air quality in our homes, in our offices, and in our buildings, and to reduce the virus risk. The cheapest and the most effective is fresh air. The more fresh air you can bring in, the better. But sometimes we cannot even open up the windows in our offices. So these are some of the most emerging trends. If we look at Bangladesh in particular, I think we had the air quality massively improving. And after having visited Bangladesh a couple of times, I know that is one of your biggest problems. So air quality should really be a focus, and hopefully as well, people in Bangladesh will take note. And then we had the problem of personal protective equipment. This is a problem all over the world now, where we have loads and loads of additional issues. Now, to finish my presentation off, I really would like to encourage all of you to take this experience as an experience of hope and inspiration, that it's in our hands. It's in the hand of human behavior. It starts with me and with you. We are the change. Unless we are the change, how can we expect the world to be the change? And we have total control over our own behavior. Okay, sorry, I have to correct that. I'm married now. I have no more total control over my behavior, because somebody else, very important, will influence my behavior. And for all the ladies that are following us out there, I think I'm a reasonably good husband because I listen and respect and value the opinion of my wife. So when she told me we need another aircon because our son is having rashes from the hot and humid weather, which we have here in the Philippines, I was like, oh, you know, I'm a hardcore environmentalist. I haven't had a car for 20 years. I used to live without using the aircon in Malaysia. But, you know, okay, she has a point. We don't want to let the kids suffer. Then I need to buy some more carbon credits. Nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. But we need to start the journey of being the change and making the improvement in small little steps. And then we can as well scale it up to our community, our family, to the university, Dhaka University, or the KL University, Tenaga University, right? Or, you know, in Glasgow next year, where our good friend Sifullah is, we will have the next COP meeting, Finance for the World. Yes, now all the countries are spending loads of money on COVID. They will be even more reluctant to give all the money that they originally promised to the climate change initiatives. But there is hope, because a lot of countries have defined green recovery. Even in this article, it was mentioned that China Belt and Road, by single the biggest money spending initiative in the whole of Southeast Asia, is starting to include more sustainable criteria. China has made a commitment to net carbon zero. China has even in Kenya apparently decided to scrap a coal-fired power plant project because it saw it as a too high risk investment. This is the trend. Banks, financial investors are now starting to dictate certain criteria that from a macro level might have even a bigger impact than what politicians decide. Because usually when a bank says we are going to exit coal, like CIMB said in Malaysia after pressure from NGOs, you know, then that will have a long-term impact. Politicians' impact might change very quickly because they might only survive for some years. And if somebody else gets elected, so when the market forces start dictating change, that's, I think, what we are seeing now. And this is what gives me hope. And then I think Sifullah can apply the sustainable finance vehicles in Bangladesh. We need to apply them here in the Philippines for a more sustainable economy that goes low carbon. We need to decarbonize. We need to protect our biodiversity. We need to raise the social standards. The UN SDGs are our compass for a better, more holistic, more just society. And that is what I hope and wish. COVID has given us a warning. Act before it's too late. COVID might be reversible. Climate change might be irreversible. It's given us hope at the same time. Let the blue skies that we have seen be the hope for us to be the change and to take the action. It starts today. Be the change now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthias. This is really, really inspirational for us. You have touched upon a lot of issues, from technical details up to the behavioral changes, up to the economic issues. Really, all components are in the same ecosystem. So if we only focus on one of the part, this is not enough. And so we have to basically consider the whole issues and whole broad pictures into one single issues. And green, environmental, or climate issues, these are not just like, it should not be in the discussion anymore. It should be there in our everyday life, in our everyday practice. So we have to bring change. It could be a small step from our own behavioral perspective, but this small step can bring a lot of change if it brings together in the macro practice. So thank you once again for your insights on today's discussion. It's very much helpful for the audience to bring some takeaways from today's webinar. And with that good note of hope, we will jump to nearly the end of today's discussion, because we have already passed nearly 46-7 minutes. I'd like to hand over the baton to our chair of the webinar today, Professor P.Eng.FIEB Rob. Sir, the floor is yours. I think we have to wait for a few seconds as our chair has been disconnected from the StreamYard. I think he's connecting once again. Yeah. So thank you so much for connecting once again. I'd like to now hand over the discussion to you to conclude our today's webinar, and we are really waiting to hear the final remarks from you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Should I start now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, and very good evening. I'm really happy to be here with you, and I have listened carefully the deliberations of two professors, scholars, with their resourceful and experience and research-based presentation. We have enjoyed. I think everybody have enjoyed this nicely, and we have understand that what's called the situation is not that much optimistic. There exists a bleak what's called future before us. Still, they have exhibit their what's called optimism, subject to some appropriate measures by the people as well as the authorities and governments. And everywhere it is evident that due to the pandemic situation, environment is also in a very bad shape, and people of all the strata have been suffering a lot. At the same time, they have tried to say that because of this pandemic situation, a little improvement have taken place in different environmental spheres. And obviously, these are in mostly natural spheres of the environment, namely the air, water quality, etc. And sometimes we come to know from the media that from Delhi, one can observe a clear scenery of the Himalayas peaks nicely. And one of the speakers have stated that dolphins are returning to the Bay of Bengal and other marine waters. These are obviously optimistic observations. So, since both are experienced and have long been researching on the environmental aspects related to their area of specialization, as a student of geography, I must say that our environment covers not only the nature, and our friend from Germany, who himself is an environmentalist, Mr. Matthias Gelber, he has presented an excellent paper on the impact of COVID on environment, and from his experience of Malaysia and other areas, he has given a comprehensive idea and scenario of the environmental states. And he has stated that from 10 to somewhere 30% pollution, air pollution, have been reduced. Still, it is for time being. And it is evident from his deliberation that whenever this COVID will go, again, because of our endless greed and competition and the spree of industrialization and modernization, will again return back to our previous consumption situation, resulting into the again increasing emission of carbon dioxide and carbon into air, polluting our water, and so on. Still, some optimistic situation. He has highlighted definitely the role of man here, because we are well aware of the fact that environment doesn't only what's called give emphasis to the natural settings. Instead, our economical, cultural, behavioral, psychological, these sides are also covered. Because of the adverse effect of this COVID, and essentially adverse effect of the climatic change, global warming, greenhouse effects, the life of the man on earth is endangered or threatened. So if you fail to control this degradation of environment, we are in problem. We have to solve this. So in the context of this COVID situation, the whole mankind have to come forward to combat this situation. And our wisdom have to be prevailed. And to the truest sense, our humanistic, what's called humanism, the sense of survival centering the humanity, we have to inculcate in us. And if we fail to do that, then problem will be much more complex, and what's called it would be rather deteriorating. So in conclusion, thanking all of my friends, those who have presented their nice thought-provoking papers. I must say that not only the what's called academics or environmentalists come forward. All people from all strata, engineers, physicians, and what's called writers, journalists, and definitely politicians have to come forward to address the challenges of post-COVID, if it goes. And I'm in doubt, and you are also aware of the fact we are not certain that after the vaccination, how come we'll overcome these problems. But still, as men, we are hopeful, optimistic. We have to survive. We have to keep our earth green for our own interest, for the sake of our future generations. If we fail to do that, we'll perish. And keeping a positive hope for our survival, our nice and bright and clean future, green future, I'm concluding this presentation. And before my concluding words, I must thank the organizer of this session, Center for Sustainable Development for Muslim World. This is not a case of Muslim world, whole mankind. Islam is for whole humanity. So the color of Islam is green. Green represents peace, and hoping for a greener and calm, tranquil, peaceful world. I'm concluding my speech here, and thanking everybody. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Abdur Rob, for your concluding remarks. It's really inspirational. And as you said, it is about all humanity. It's not about particular religion or particular sects. So once again, on behalf of the organizer, Center for Sustainable Development of Muslim World, I would like to thank the whole panel. I'd like to thank Mr. Matthias Gelber for your kind time to join our today's webinar, and also Professor Dr. Nowshad for your time, and also for your presentation, and also to the chair of this event, Professor Dr. Abdur Rob. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thanks to the listeners for your patience 1 hour. I think it has been useful. I think you have at least one message, one takeaway message for each of us. If we could implement it, I think the webinar would be a successful one. And with that hope and good note, we'd like to end the webinar here. Thank you all once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.